Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to yield 5 minutes to the gentleman from California, Mr. Clintock, a member of the Natural Resources Committee.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Chairman, I certainly support H.R. 1404. It is going to add some flexibility in managing firefighting costs on our federal lands. But my friend, the gentleman from Washington, is absolutely correct. Our firefighting costs would be much lower and our revenues would be much higher if we'd restore the sound forest management practices that this Congress long ago abandoned. Instead, we've embraced a radical and retrograde ideology that we should abandon our public lands to overpopulation, overgrowth, and benign neglect. Bills like this one are made necessary precisely because of this public folly. A generation ago, we recognized the importance of proper wildlands management. We recognized that nothing is more devastating to the ecology of a forest than a forest fire. And we recognized that in any living community, including forests, dense overpopulation is unhealthy. And so we carefully groomed our public lands. We removed excessive vegetation, and we gave timber the room it needs to grow. Surplus timber and overgrowth were sold for the benefit of our communities. Our forests prospered, our economy prospered, and forest fires were far less numerous and far less severe than we suffer today. Today we're seeing the damage done to our forests and to our economy by this Luddite ideology that human beings shouldn't touch our natural resources. My region in northeastern California has been tormented by devastating fires in the last few years, and the reason is quite simple. As one forester explained it at a hearing we conducted in Sacramento, the excess timber is going to come out of the forests one way or the other. It's either going to be carried out or it's going to be burned out. A generation ago, we carried it out, and it fueled prosperity throughout our region. It produced a cornucopia of revenues to this federal government. But today it's being burned out, fueling devastating fires that are destroying vast tracts of land and destroying the abundance and prosperity that we once enjoyed. The first victim of this wrong-headed policy is the environment itself. Our recent forest fires have made a mockery of all of our clean air regulations. As the gentleman from Washington pointed out, those who are concerned about carbon dioxide might be interested in a report by scientists from the National Center for Atmospheric Research and the University of Colorado at Boulder. They estimated that a single forest fire in California in 2007 produced about 25% of the average monthly emissions from all fossil fuel burning throughout all of California. And anyone who's seen a forest after one of these fires knows that the environmental devastation could not possibly be more complete. But the cost of these policies doesn't end there. Timber is a renewable resource. If properly managed, it's literally an inexhaustible source of prosperity. And yet my region, blessed with one of the most bountiful renewable resources in the nation, has been rendered economically prostrate. A region that once prospered from its surplus timber is now ravaged by fires that are fueled by that surplus timber. The gentleman from Washington mentioned the little town of Quincy, California. That happens to be in my district. Population 2,000, about 500 families. As of May the 4th, 150 of those families are going to be out of work because the sawmill had to shut down. Environmental litigation's tied up about 2/3 of their timber harvest. The company that owns that sawmill, Sierra Pacific's, also just announced today that it's shutting down its sawmills in Sonora and Camino for the same reason. That's another 310 families out of work. This is not environmentalism. The true environmentalists recognize the damage that's done by overgrowth and overpopulation, and they recognize the role of sound forest management practices in maintaining healthy forests. So, Mr. Chairman, while I support this legislation, we wouldn't need to be spending so much putting out fires, and we'd have a lot more revenue to do it with if we'd spend a little more effort on restoring sound forest management practices to our national forests. And I yield back the balance of my time.